What's up, Huddle Up and Waiters? Had to go ahead and get my little cheese head on before we started because I'm surrounded by tuna on this show. So real
Yeah.
happy for the schedule release. Folks, it's great to be back on schedule. My God, we were waiting forever. It seemed like we were out of sync. The draft had us all over the place. Free agency had us all over the place. Bobby, our owner, was like, "You there, you there, you there. Shut up. Go over there, go over there." So, yeah, we were just out of sorts for a little bit behind the scenes, even though it looked
Bobby
great
was an
up
elite
front.
signal caller through the whole thing.
Oh yeah, but thank God he wasn't like Tua Tagovailoa and fell out the last couple of weeks. So there's that. Anyways, um, we have a special guest up tonight, Mr. Zach Cohen of 33rd Football Team. How you doing tonight, Zach?
Me? Oh, I guess this is my cue. I'm awesome. It's so great to finally talk to both of you guys. I feel like, we've had our separate conversations, most recently about, Dave's rankings of my Miami Dolphins. So a little butthurt by that, honestly. But I'm happy to be here, really, honestly.
Listen, that was supposed to be a DM. It's okay. I do it to Bret and George Costanza, who you just saw. I do it to Bobby. I do it to everyone. I'm surrounded by fish, so I have to stand my ground a little bit.
Hey, at least we don't smell like fish, okay?
How do you know
we
that?
smell like blue cheese, baby.
Well, that's true. That's true. I don't know. We don't know that. We smell like
I do after a hard day's work, but then I take a shower. But anyways, no, I'm glad you're here, man. I knew that I actually did a lot of conversing with you when you used to work for the Draft Network, and I loved your work you did there. And when you went over to 33rd Football Team, I was like, whoa! I'm like, because that was a great opportunity for you, and what obviously I see you do there. But do you want to go ahead and tell the fans here what they're watching, the like and subscribers, what you do over at 33rd Football?
Yeah, last time I checked, I'm the multimedia coordinating producer there. Oh man, so many people are like, "What the hell does that mean?" I'm like, I can't really tell you. Not because I don't know what I do. I know what I do. It's just a lot. I think the best way to describe it is helping in the creation, production, and execution of our multimedia content on the fantasy and betting side.
Yeah.
So any fantasy videos, any betting podcasts, anything like that, I just help set up the podcast network for the entire company. But right now, we're just using that to house all of our fantasy, dynasty, betting content in podcast form. On all platforms, by the way, the 33rd Team Podcast Network. Drop some follows. But
like,
that's really
what need the boost.
Yeah, come on. It's been a great ride. Working with some really smart, really cool, really fun people. Every now and then I get to make some content on my own, but I would say 75% of it is helping other people with theirs and making the site grow in ways that are just freaking awesome. It's great. It's a great gig. Knock on wood, I have this for a long, long time because it's been so much fun.
Well, yeah, and that's why I was shocked when you made the jump Draft Network because I loved all the stuff that they did there, the content they were doing, even though their mock draft machine was down for like over a year. But because that's one of the few things I loved. You can go in and make the trades, you could and swap everything in and out, and then other simulators caught on. But then once I went and checked out 33rd Football Team, when I saw you go there, I checked it out, saw Trey Wingo was there and other ex-players, ex-GMs, ex-coaches were there. And I'm like, holy crap, this thing kind of blew up.
Yeah, dude, it's been great. I literally started working there a week before the season started. And they brought on Josh Larkey, who I've admired in the space for a while as director of fantasy and betting, and they needed some help organizing it all and pushing out content. And that's where I came in, helped create this system of getting awesome content out, making it, from literally like, okay, what works, what doesn't, what the best time to make this, who needs to do it, what do we need to make this happen. It's kind of all on me and everyone else we work with, which has been awesome. Super cool video editors that are on hand. I can't say enough good things. I mean, I don't want to turn this into the 33rd Team praise show because we can totally have that. But it's been awesome. So I feel like I'm just saying the same. It's been awesome. It's been awesome.
Yeah, no, we get it. It's awesome. Okay. Anyway, no. But
everything is awesome. Oh.
No, well, let's go ahead and jump right into it. I mean, our thing for tonight was supposed to be the draft picks, but me being a dummy, I'm like, oh my God, we're doing the scheduled release day. We don't have anything for release day. So we're going to do some of that. We're going to do some of the draft picks from Zach's perspective, what he sees. let's jump right into it. Zach's favorite draft fits between players and teams. Who's your ones right off the top of your head?
Oh man, I mean, this was a pick that I had pegged in my mock draft, and it's something I was praying to happen. I have no like affiliation with the Vikings at all, but man, I knew they needed to take Jordan Addison, and they did. It was perfect.
It was a good pick.
Being my role, not just with the 30-13, but being in the fantasy content creation space for so long and playing fantasy football for so long, naturally, my mind is a little geared toward the offensive players. That's really all I focus on. But with Addison, man, like at Pittsburgh, was he the best receiver in the draft? Probably not, but he's dynamic. He's got that run after catch ability. He's got a great release package. When you talk about what he's not that great at, he's fast. He's not that fast. He's a slimmer guy. How physical can he be? But that doesn't really matter when you're not the best receiver on your team, because that is clearly Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
A perfect fit for a team that just lost Adam Thielen. I think the Vikings have like 142, 143 vacated targets. Thielen had a little over 100 of that. Addison can slide right in, not only make a dent for our fantasy teams, but he can add another dimension to this Vikings offense that will probably get rid of Dalvin Cook soon. So it's a great fit on so many levels to take away from Jefferson, frees up Jefferson. I love that they were not content in having Jalen Baker, the outside receiver there, and then getting Jordan Addison to pair with Justin Jefferson was sick. I missed that comment. Too. What did he say? He cited Brian Flores. Can we put that back up?
He is a known Flores hater for being Miami.
Evan Posner.
Yeah, Posner was not a Flores guy. So anytime there's a chance to bash Flores, Evan's right there. And I don't know if he's going to be able to fix Minnesota's defense. Transitioning to the other side, that's a mess.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you're going into the draft, you can make an argument that the Vikings really didn't address receiver. They have KJ Osborne in the slot. They have like Jalen Naylor on the roster too. No disrespect to Jalen Naylor, but I don't think anyone feels comfortable with him starting right now. But they did bring in Flores, and whatever you think about Flores, at least they tried to address that problem with their Swiss cheese defense because they got holes everywhere. They need a cornerback. And they brought in another receiver, which they clearly needed. So I love the fit from all aspects. If I were in this situation, I probably would have looked harder at moving up for a stalwart player on defense. But either way, Addison to Minnesota, man, I can't sing enough praises about that fit.
Evan says Bret looks like he's taking his passport photo. I didn't know if you were frozen or if you were going to say something. Or
No. I'm reading as Zach's talking. I'm like, I had the draft stuff up, notes up. I'm prepared.
So Jordan Addison, what do you think?
Well, so like with Jordan Addison, when you look at that aspect, I mean, he brought up the vacated target point, and Adam Thielen took a step back, and it happens. Receivers usually once they get over 30, between 30 and 32, they take that step back. So they really needed that extra impact player. They clearly want to throw the football. This offense loves to throw the football. You need more than one target. You can't just have one volume target. It's too easy to get one-dimensional on offense. And if they are going to have Dalvin Cook out, you have so many other touches that need to go around. And they clearly want it to be more of a passing-friendly offense. And Addison honestly helps out with Jefferson. And what I always say, impact players. You always want to draft impact players early. The Vikings did that in 2020 with getting Jefferson, and look how well that helped the team immediately. So you always want to get impact players, and you cannot have enough weapons. It doesn't matter how good your team is, you cannot never have enough weapons. Never have enough pass rushers, corners, and weapons. So it's obviously one, not only just a scheme fit, but a pick that made a lot of sense. This one kind of balanced the need / like impact, so it was a good fit. Some people thought maybe a little early, but I think Addison's an explosive player, and I think he complements Jefferson. I think he could do things that allows Jefferson to really open up his arsenal and continue to be the dominant force he is. And that allows Addison to kind of take the top off the defense and kind of do different things and give their offense more looks. So I think and plus Kirk Cousins, whether you think it's a good quarterback or not, he's good enough to get both of them the ball at a high volume and put up gaudy numbers with them. So I like the fit all around. And it's something exciting about when a team gets a player that just fits. Like for me, it was the Lions in their first two picks, the Seahawks picks. Like it just like getting guys that just fit perfectly. You just get excited because you know they're probably going to have a good career or start their career off right because it went to the perfect situation. It just gets you excited about it as a draft, fan. As a fan, like you might see, like I've seen the Bills get a player, and I'm like, damn it, why? Or Christian Gonzalez going to New England, like I love that for them, but I hate that for them at the same time. As a draft guy, I'm like, wow, great. Who?
Dalton Kincaid for the Bills too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like the only good thing about that is tight ends typically take longer to develop, but it's a good fit and potentially really good. So
that's my. You know what? Before we dive straight into anything else, I want to go and say thank you, folks, for showing up again. Whoever's watching, we got Anthony in the house. We got Dolphins Thirsty, Mr. Evan Posner. I saw Joshua Wingate in there. Cowboys suck. Hashtag. Anyways, wanted to go ahead and say please like and subscribe. Hit the smash button on that for Finstock Sports Network. A lot of good content. Just wanted to plug that in there real quick before we jump to the next player, who I believe was Mr. Devin Achane, if I pronounced that correctly, right there, Zach?
Ooh,
yeah.
Achane.
Devon
Achane.
Yeah, I just found out it was Devon like 2 weeks ago. The Dolphins drafted him like 10 seconds after my Florida Panthers scored an overtime winning goal. And it was just one high after another high. It was nuts. It was.
So you were on cloud 7 or cloud 9. Sorry.
I was on cloud 9. Then I went to the Panthers game last night where they lost 2-1 and they got immediately thrust back down to earth. I saw some comments said they got tickets to a Panthers game. I don't know if that was Carolina or Florida.
It was Carolina, probably.
On a Finstock Sports Network, you're talking about the wrong Panthers, man. What are you doing? That's ridiculous. But yeah, Devon Achane, I mean, going into this, and, obviously, Bret, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, because my biggest needs for the Dolphins, pretty easily, tight end, right tackle, and then like linebacker depth. I think those are the three biggest needs. But I am not of the mind that when you keep drafting these young linemen, the worst thing to do is to draft another young lineman, because offensive linemen take time to develop. And the Dolphins have not really been big in the veteran offensive line market. Obviously, Teron Armstead last year was kind of an anomaly because of how good he has been. So I wasn't really expecting them, nor really wanting them to draft an offensive lineman that early. Tight end, Elijah Higgins later. We'll see if that experiment works. I think they'll probably keep him in a niche role, but coming
I
into
like
this,
it, so don't love it.
Yeah, and I like it, but I don't love it. Exactly.
But I like that he can block, and he's already a capable blocker. So I'm like, that's the last 2 times they tried this, it failed miserably. And they're trying it with I forgot his name already. Kid at Iowa State last year, or was Iowa State? Wait a minute. But with him, at least he can block. At least he's a capable receiver. So it's still a project. It's definitely not a home run, but at least they got a guy. The fundamentals of blocking is there, so you have something. That Thomas Durate kind of comes to mind. I'm like, oh God, he was the same thing. But then I looked at Higgins, and Higgins is a better athlete, better blocker. So I'm like, okay, maybe this will work out. But Durate and even Gesicki, it didn't work out. And I like Gesicki, but he just, I don't know, he tips the hand of the defense too much.
Yeah, they tried to keep him as like that slot receiver, which really was fine. That's what he was. But then you bring him Durham Smythe, and it's like, guess I know what they're doing. They're running the ball right now, and now Smythe is the only tight end on the roster.
And then you motion him, and you try to get cute, and defense like, okay, we'll play to the opposite of his motion, and there it is. They try to wing him back, and it's like we'll just blow him up, and we'll stop the run. So, but I was not wanting to reach for a tight end. I was hoping to get one, but I didn't want to reach for a tight end.
Yeah, and I think the Darnell Washington fervor was justified, but then apparently some teams weren't happy with his medical, so he fell. Whatever. The point is, with all those needs and then what they ended up tagging in later in the draft, it kind of opens you up for a luxury pick. Do the Dolphins need Devon Achane? No, I think having a Mostert, Wilson with a little bit of Ahmed and Gaskin sprinkled in is fine. That's good. Like Mostert and Wilson were pretty solid last year, rotating between them. But with Achane, man, like he's a big play waiting to happen. Like this is a guy you can get the ball in his hands in a variety of ways, and in this type of offense, with some guy named Tyreek Hill and some guy named Jalen Waddle already doing that. Yeah, he said we sold for Tyler Kroft over Tucker Kraft. That's right. I forgot they just signed Kroft. Whoop-de-doo. Like Achane's just, man, I mean, he's a kick returner too. He had 36 catches on 48 targets, something like that. So he can catch, he can run. I loved that pick for fantasy football. I don't know about on a weekly basis, but maybe best ball, even dynasty. It has some
definitely
value
dynasty
with their things. Exactly. So I wanted to come on here and say an early round guy, and then like a mid round guy. And I had a couple later guys I was eyeing to talk about, but it's the Fins Talk Sports Network, man. How could I not come on here and talk about Devon Achane? I haven't even got a chance to show my t-shirt yet. This is it says Tagovailoa #1 in the Miami Heat and Vice font. It's the most like South Florida shirt I own.
I'm gonna say I do like the whole like Miami Vice mesh with the t-shirts and stuff in Miami. I'm not from Miami or anything, but I do like that. I like the. I don't want that to be the permanent colors. I just like the mesh and the. Yeah. I actually like when the other sports pay homage to each other. I think it's pretty cool.
So I have a TikTok account that I don't know, like it just got like way bigger than my Twitter, which thank God, because Twitter is a crapshoot sometimes. But one of my big fortes is uniforms. I'll talk about uniforms. I'll put uniform concepts up there, and one of them being a Miami Dolphins Vice jersey. It looks so nice, and I'm like, man, like this is something like we shouldn't do, but if they did, I would buy the hell out of it, just like I bought basically every Miami Heat Vice jersey ever. Sorry to get a little rant about the Heat.
You're fine.
Football.
You're good. So let me touch on Achane real quick, because the way I see him and the way the role I predicted for him before the Dolphins took him was a guy that immediately think of guys like James White, Alvin Kamara, guys that are more of a receiver right away. And I think he's going to bulk up a little bit because he's no longer running track now. So I think like he should put on some more muscle, and which is going to be great. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Duke Johnson a little bit. When remember when we had him in Miami, he actually did really good. Then it's like, now we're not going to resign him. So I think he's going to be the guy immediately come in. He's going to be a receiver. He's going to be a good option as a third option receiver, which I've been saying Tua needs that third option. Later in the season against Buffalo, you saw what happened. We got the backs involved more. That doesn't mean run the ball necessarily. It means throw the ball to the backs. And Mostert was having himself a day. He had a really good rushing game running and had a really good game receiving. And I think Achane offers that. He offers depth behind Mostert. He offers depth behind Wilson. And Wilson's still a good back, but he's not great, nothing special. But he has some power, runs a little narrow and upright. But overall, he runs with power and speed. And Mostert, he's probably still our most consistent and best back. And I think Achane just offers that explosiveness out of the backfield. And then I think Savon Ahmed, if they decide to keep four backs, I think he's a good back to keep and do the same kind of things with. Split eyes a receiver. But as soon as they drafted Achane, I realized that he was going to be a receiver, because at the end of the year, I started noticing Ahmed was lined up out wide quite a bit. And he was doing that before, and no one's really using that role. And I think one of my tweets I had mentioned about that we need to do that more. So I'm hoping that Achane's role is more of a receiver right away, with some running, obviously, as a back, but create mismatches against linebackers, against nickel corners, because he has that explosive ability. And just being able to kind of use him, Dolphin fans are going to love this, our Deebo Samuel. I don't really mean he's going to be Deebo, but just in a versatile role where he could just kind of do a little bit of everything. So Achane, I thought, was already a versatile guy, and teams would use him that way. But I hope he's not like a Dexter McCluster at the same time.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I hope he doesn't. But I think he's tougher than he runs harder than McCluster, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, more of a natural runner. Wow, that's a good comp. I'm stealing that. I'm totally
which comp?
The comp, all of them. You toss Duke Johnson in there, Deebo Samuel, Dexter McCluster. Take the best of all of them and avoid the worst of mostly McCluster.
Yes. Yeah. And then you can also look at the most recent success story is like Sky Moore, of a running back moved to a wide receiver, a guy who just does a little bit of everything. So, yeah.
So what happens when Dalvin Cook gets traded to Miami? They have the rookie Achane. You've got now all these other one-year signed running backs. Who gets moved off and gets let go if Dalvin goes there? Because we all know Dalvin's going to get fed.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Wilson maybe gets traded, or Mostert not likely. Wilson probably goes to Minnesota.
Could be. I feel like they'd keep him, Mostert and Wilson, just based off the contracts they gave. They have no real ties to Gaskin. Like Ahmed, like got some playing time. I think I don't remember when he was when they brought him on. I know he was a UDFA, right? Was he a UDFA? Or was he a 7th-round pick? I can't remember.
No, Ahmed's an undrafted free agent. The San Francisco had him in their camp, and then Miami picked him up.
Gaskin was a 7th-round pick.
Evans on top. Jeff Wilson. If we cut him post June 1st, they save almost $1 million in cap.
Wow, $1 million. Stephen Ross eats that cash for breakfast.
Yeah, they could. It honestly is a sweet deal. They could trade him to Minnesota because Minnesota, they're friends. The coaches are friends. They had the same system, so it could work.
You know, this is a hot take before we go to the negative parts of the show, talking about awkward fits. That was tough. I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins keep more true running backs or even the same amount of true running backs, Mostert, Wilson, A-Chain, Ahmed, Gaskin, as they do true receivers, being obviously Hill and then Waddle and then Berrios, Anderson, and then someone else. I don't know. Maybe the jury is out in Izukanma already. I've really shown much other than special teams in year 1, 4th-round pick. My goodness. So we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised to do 5 true running backs, 5 true receivers, and then Elijah Higgins is just kind of there.
Well, does the 5 running backs include Ingold as a fullback?
Oh, yeah, shoot, and Ingold as the fullback. Man, just put 5 running backs in the backfield. We don't need an offensive line.
No, it's I think because, and this is like a thing across the NFL, you have a guy, think kind of like Moneyball. You're starting to replace things instead of saying, well, we need a receiver because you lost this receiver. You're more or less replacing targets or touches, and you're trying to find new ways to move the ball. Andy Reid does a great job at that. He's not going to say, well, I lost these guys for agency. I need to replace them all. No, I just need to find a way to move the football. And looking at an overall football perspective, just in the NFL, that's what they do. New England did that for years. They would just find different targets. It didn't have to be another Julian Edelman or Wes Welker. It had to, like, James White became an effective target. Gronkowski, so they always had like something. So it's something to be said there. And then like we look at how many running backs and receivers could they keep? Well, they keep the best players. So if A-Chain and Mostert are really effective receivers out wide, then I don't have to keep as many receivers because I got depth in the backfield. I can use them as receivers. So there's a lot to be like looked at. And then your 4th, 5th, and 6th receiver have to play special teams.
Yep, moving parts, beauty, and good Moneyball reference too.
I believe Zach also tried to transition us to the awkward fits. The whole man. Because I remember a couple of them they listed. I'm going to say here, but I remember watching them and I'm like, the hell are they doing? They already got a whole bunch of that position. What are they doing? They got other holes they got to fill. So we're going to start off with Zach Charbonnet, the wine that is too much.
Good name. It kind of hurts me to bank on a guy with that good first name.
Yes,
yeah, the journalism student in me is inclined to talk about the pros or the counter argument, I guess. So the pros, right? You can never have enough running back depth, especially for a team like Seattle, where running is clearly a big part of their identity. Though I think they were top 15 in pass play rate. They didn't run the ball as much last year. And Charbonnet is a good back. A lot of sites, including the 33rd team, had him as a top 5 back. He's well-rounded. He's got good vision. He's tough to bring down. I wouldn't say he's a primary pass catching back, but this is a guy who can play all 3 downs. Naturally, the cons on why it was awkward. Number 1, for sure, being you said Kenneth Walker in the 2nd round last year, and he looked more than fine. I was a big Walker fan, not as one-dimensional as people say, but still, he's good. Kenneth Walker is good. The big thing also being Seattle really needed defensive line help. And they did address that in rounds 4 and 5. And they had 10 picks in the draft. So they're going to take defensive linemen. They're going to take the running back, which they did again in the draft. Kenny McIntosh from Georgia. I know they love DJ Dallas. He's more of a pass catching back for them too. So all this to say, you really spent your 3rd pick. It was a 3rd pick or fourth pick, I think, behind Derek Hall. 4th pick on another running back when you should be fine with Walker. You want to get some running back depth in there. You want to try to cover up in case of potential injuries, which always seem to happen with this freaking backfield. Do you really want to take a running back now? So I'm not saying it was a bad pick because we never know. And I never say picks are bad. There's so many things that I don't like doing. One of them being like ranting on draft choices like as they're drafted. We don't know how they'll turn out. Cole Strange was panned last year, and he was a very good interior lineman for the Patriots this year. So I'm not saying Charbonnet will be bad. I'm not saying this is a bad pick. Just left me scratching my head a bit because of the positional value and needs for Seattle.
Well, so Seattle, they want to do what they've done for years, and they got back to their identity. They got back to what they do. They run the football, ball control and offense, but physical defense. Can it work in today's NFL? I don't know. Like, that was 10 years ago that they were dominant with that. And it seems like there's no more dominant defenses. But Pete Carroll seems to have the recipe to continue success. While they've not been great, they've been good and they've been respectable. So I feel like it fits what they want to do. And again, like you said, Charbonnet's a 3-down back. He can do it all. And I think Kenneth Walker, while I like Kenneth Walker, I think he's explosive. I think he's a fantastic back. I think they want to go the 1-2 punch and to keep their backs healthy and rotate it and run the ball. And it seems like they're dedicated to running that while they have Geno. But it does give them options, too, in the backfield at the same time. But it is kind of one of the, like, I want to say a head scratcher, one of those, like, okay, it makes sense. It's kind of stuff they do, but does that really push the needle for them? Does that really push them over? And I don't know that it does, but Pete Carroll is definitely an outside the box thinker. He's definitely not like the common guy in the NFL that like thinks the same way. So I hate saying it, but like, who am I to judge Pete Carroll? Because he's had success with Seattle in drafting and finding guys. And so far, like he's showing, hey, look, I got rid of my best player, and everybody said we were going to suck with Geno Smith, and here we are doing well, surprising everybody, and looking to like make a run next year.
So this is my thing. What Zach was saying too is they need defensive line help. They got it in the 4th and 5th, but I feel like there was some higher quality defensive line talent up where they could have gotten Charbonnet instead. And you got guys like Shelby Harris, Al Woods, and Poona Ford all left. Like, they're gone. They needed a lot of help on the defensive line. And the fact that, the fact they only brought in a couple rookies to help replace that, and I'm like, they need some serious help. And I felt like there was a huge ignoring of a position that was a seed for them because a lot of teams were just running right up the gut last year.
Mm.
Exactly.
But, I mean, it feels like so they drafted a corner, right? And it feels like they're doing what a lot of these teams are doing now. Go ahead and run on us. It's fine. We want you to run at us because we're not afraid of that. We'll score on offense against you. We'll run the ball down your third and score on you. You can run at us all day because we're going to stop you from scoring at the end of the day with our secondary. And we're going to get you in a down distance, and you're going to have to throw the football at some point. And that's kind of the defense they're playing. It is risky because if your offense struggles, then your defense is going to have a long day trying to get off the field because they're going to be running the ball at you. Yeah. But it's kind of what Seattle's always been susceptible to the run. They've just been so deep on the defensive line, and their offense could score and run the clock out to where their defense forced offenses to have to throw anyway. Mm-hmm. So that's why and then when you would run at them, I remember back when this is trying to run with the Cowboys, they ran the ball right at them and beat them. And they were exposed because they were aggressive getting out the field, which left a lot of rushing lanes as long as the running back was disciplined and the offensive line did their job. And that's what, like, when you watch Seattle, it's kind of the same concept. So it's like, can they do that? Is their secondary going to be good enough to make up for the front set? Well, the linebacker's still good to make up for the D line, but we'll see. Because, I mean, that is a big loss of losing Poona Ford and Shelby Harris. It's going to be a big loss. And did they draft guys already that kind of fill that like the last couple of years? Or do they sign a couple guys that they feel like, you know what, we're good with where we are? It's a question. And maybe it's a process. Maybe they know, hey, this isn't our year to succeed. We're going to fight tooth and nail, but we're on a plan to rebuild this thing.
So another one, Luke Schoonmaker. Dallas Cowboys tight end.
We're looking forward to talk about this one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was hoping so. I wanted to – I went through the first round. You know, there are a couple guys, obviously, value-wise, probably not – like Will McDonald, both Lions picks, like surprise from what we assumed. But I just wanted to go back to like my board again and like who players I valued versus team needs. And the one glaring need I had with Dallas was tight end. it seems pretty abundant, especially with the Buffalo Bills video coming out today behind the scenes. They moved up to get Dalton Kincaid.
Mhm.
That consensus was they were going to take Kincaid there.
Mhm.
So I'm like, all right, take a tight end. Michael Mayer's there. Maybe get Sam Laporta in the second round. But nah, they opted for Luke Schoonmaker. And again, maybe Schoonmaker becomes the next great tight end. Who knows? It would make me look like a fool. This would be a phenomenal tweet to send to @OldTakesExposed if it happens. I just feel like they could have done better. And for the record, I like the Mozzie Smith pick. A lot of Cowboys fans.
Yeah, Mozzie was good.
I love that pick. I love that pick. So I'm not like saying they should have taken a tight end there.
Yeah.
It's more about, man, like Luke Schoonmaker, he's a solid blocker. He just like leaves a lot on the table as a receiving option, which again isn't like a tight end isn't like, oh, you have to catch passes or you have to block. Schoonmaker's got the blocking aspect down, and this is clearly a team that prioritizes blocking because of how well and effectively they try to run the ball. But if you are going to take a guy who, is more of a blocker than a receiver, I feel like you can do better than someone who hasn't had a collegiate season of over 200 receiving yards. Like he had one season surpassing that mark. He's not that elusive. I mean, in his actual he could just do a lot better catching the ball, especially like his extensions. Contested catching is super inconsistent. If you're looking for a good blocker with receiving upside and you were comfortable with his medicals, Darnell Washington was right there. Tucker Kraft was a serviceable blocker with more receiving production. So maybe Schoonmaker does, become the piece Dallas wants him to be. And again, I know this is a really niche answer to the prompt you kind of gave me. But I feel like if Dallas is expecting him to be the main tight end, they'll probably be disappointed. So this was awkward for me. This was probably awkward for a lot of
Jake
Cowboys
Ferguson's
fans.
going to be getting more looks than anything there.
Maybe Peyton Hendershot. They seem to really like him. He got a couple plays last year. Yeah, who knows?
I mean, Ferguson played well as a rookie, and rookie tight ends usually take time to develop.
Yeah.
And I think like Dallas has done well. Dallas is so underrated with finding talent and developing their talent. I don't think they get enough credit for it. But with that said, I agree with you. Mozzie Smith was a great pick there. I think he's disruptive. Usually you don't take defensive linemen in the first round unless they're like disruptive. And I think he was disruptive enough to make a difference. I think he changes the front of their defense. I really like him. I like I love their defensive line coach or their defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn. He's a defensive line guy. He'll get him playing really well.
Yep.
But Ferguson, who has flashed, had 450 yards in his last year in college, 300 yards, 400 yards. So he consistently got 400. Now, Schoonmaker, he only got 418 last year, 165 the year before, and 54 the year before in 19. So he's never been, like you said, a receiving threat. He's always been that physical guy. With that said, I don't know if it's because he can't or wasn't asked to. I think there's potential there. I don't think Michigan used him much as a receiver. They use a lot of him as a blocker. So I think immediately it's on the surface, it's a good pick. You can come in, be your blocking tight end. You can run 2 tight end sets. You can have Ferguson as your receiving tight end. But if that's all he becomes, it's an okay pick. If he becomes a total package tight end, it's a great pick. But like it's kind of like one of those you have to wait and see. And if he just becomes a blocking tight end, it's like there were better options than him in the second round. And it would feel like they panicked because the guy they really wanted was taken by the Bills. And then they had to kind of go to plan B. And then the Packers got themselves a good tight end, a couple good tight ends. And in that second round, there's a lot of good tight ends went, and Dallas took him over 2 other good ones that were better receiving options. So I don't really know. And if they took him because he's the better blocker, okay. But I hope that means you think he's going to be a good receiver. Because if you took a guy in the second round just because he's good at blocking, I think you could have got a guy like that in the 4th or 5th round. Mm-hmm. That's just me.
Well, I saw John's comment down at the bottom. Dave, what the hell? Did Green Bay get 5 primetime games with Jordan Love? No offense? Hold on.
Kind of ridiculous.
About this.
No, that's not no offense, Dave. That's no offense.
Hold on. No offense. Anyways, I'm going to say, John, it's the most winningest franchise in football history. They just eclipsed that last year, and no player is bigger than the team. I love Rodgers, but he moved on. Same thing with Favre. He left. Wow. We got primetime games. We got 4 of them in that year when we had Rodgers' first year. So
it's algorithms. It's algorithms. That's what decides a lot of that
What
stuff.
draws TV? Packers is one of those five franchises that draw on TV. It's Steelers, it's Patriots, it's 49ers, it's Cowboys, it's Packers. Those are the five.
Aren't the Packers primetime games too? Aren't some of them towards the end of the season?
No, a lot of them are heavy in the beginning. They got 2 in the first 5 weeks.
Okay, because if they're near the end of the season, they can flex them out anyway. Like, let's say the Packers, let's say Love experiment just goes to shit and Love just sucks.
Well, let's say they keep them and then they possibly go for the playoffs.
Well, I'm just saying. Well, let's say that goes like sour and it's like holy hell, 5-11, kind of like bad season. They can just flex it out. So I'm just saying they have options.
But that's a good transition for Zachary's surprise teams because John set the tone. Thank you for the transition, John. Go ahead, Zach. Your surprise teams for this year.
Good job, John. I've been sitting on this for a while. I mean, we were DMing about it, and I feel like this is really what spawned this. Look, I'm not going to go on here and say that the Packers are going to surprise people and they are going to have a good season, but it seems like everyone's kind of writing them off solely based on the fact that we don't know how good Jordan Love can be. Like, people are just assuming that he's not going to be good. I'm not saying he's going to be good, but that's very real. That's a real possibility that Jordan Love does end up being good. And then what? It's a solid team. The defense made their improvements. The offensive line always seems to be competent. They added more receivers. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are smash mouth backfield right there. So I think they have the pieces. It might have just been a weird, bad season with Rodgers and everything and whatnot. Oh, well, it happens. What happens? What does John say? Oh, yeah, he's talking about it meant no offense. Awkward. But kind of going back to this, it's like, look, Love looked better, and reports are saying that Green Bay really liked the progressions that Love has shown last season, which of course reports say that. They're not going to come out and say, oh, we think he sucked. They're not going to say that. Right, yeah. He was 6 for 9, 113, and a touchdown down the stretch in Sunday Night Football in Philadelphia. That's just one game.
To a field goal as well, and we kept them in the game. Yeah,
exactly. Like, that's just one instance. It's not the end-all, be-all. This guy's a future Hall of Famer. But it's better than being, he went 0 for 9 through 3 picks, one of them a pick 6, So I think there is a possibility that Green Bay, first off, that division's a lot tougher now. So I don't know if they'll win it. But I feel like too many people are selling Green Bay short just based on the uncertainty of their quarterback situation, which will be kind of what I talk about with my next surprise teams. But probability is a major, it's the focal point of projections. When you sit down and say who's going to be good, you don't know who's going to be good. You can think who might be.
You project
everything. Yeah, every type of content I make, every tweet, everything I do, it's never this will happen. It's almost certainly, essentially, probably, maybe, almost not, things like that. So I think there's a big enough chance that Jordan Love is actually good. And seeming so, everyone's kind of written him off already because people think that because he didn't play his entire career, that he's going to be bad. Maybe he is, but there's still just an equal chance that he's good. And if he is good, the Packers can be a surprise team for sure.
Can I just state this real quick? There's eerie similarities, Bret. I just got to add this in. And I'm not arguing with you, Zach. I'm just saying,
are you a Packers fan? I had no idea.
Anyways, so Rodgers had in 2007 28 limited snaps. Everyone always complains about, Jordan Love only had limited snaps. He hasn't seen real time. He had 21 snaps. It's 7 snaps difference of when 07 to 2022 for Rodgers Love. They went. The predecessor went to the same damn team. They sat for the same exact years. I'm not saying Love is going to be Rodgers. If anything, I feel like Love is more, his ability is more like Favre. Like, he's more of a gunslinger. He's got that confidence in the Philly game, and he was letting it fly. And I feel like when he was thrown into dangerous territory, that reminded me more of Favre, because Rodgers wouldn't have made some of those throws Love did because his mind would have said, no, it's too high of a probability to get picked off. We're not doing that. Love wasn't doing that, and I feel like you're going to get a mix of Rodgers and Favre here. And I'm not saying that for talent-wise it's going to be a Hall of Fame QB. Love just needs to be serviceable and good enough to manage the offense. Like Zach said, good offense in the fact of young wide receivers. A lot of people aren't speaking up Jaden Reed right now paired with Watson and Dobbs. I feel like that's going to be a young,
good pair,
artful wide receiver trio. Then the Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft pairing. I mean, 2 big athletic tight ends. Yeah. I feel like that's not being talked about enough. Tight ends take a while to produce, but Bret just said Jake Ferguson showed out. If we can get one of those guys to step up, it could be a really fun season. Are they going to make the playoffs? Probably not. My floor is 6 wins to 8 wins. That's my window for the Packers. I want to see Love produce as a QB. I think they're going to surprise some people, but I also think there's going to be mistakes. It's a lot of rookies paired together. Their average age went from 30 down to like 24 because they got rid of Rodgers, Crosby, Mercedes Lewis. That's 38, 39, and 40 years old. They dropped really a good bit to get that average age down and get that youth movement through the actual team, because I think David Bakhtiari or Pat O'Donnell is the oldest player right now in Green Bay, and that's saying a lot. So I think they're going to surprise some people, but I just keep telling people, like, everyone that wants to rag on Love, and it's a bunch of fans, and I always go tell them, give your quarterback the same time frame you gave him to Love. I just want 1 year, and I'll shut up. And I've had guys like Emery Hunt and Louis Riddick come out and boast Jordan Love. Those guys have seen talent. They know what it looks like.
Emery was big on Jordan Love before the draft.
I know.
Then in the 2019 season, Emery even stated that Love kind of didn't quite do what he needed to do to really like cement himself as one of the top echelon quarterbacks. It doesn't mean he didn't have the talent. He just didn't quite step up like you'd like him to see. And Emery was high on him and Jalen Hurts. He actually had Jalen Hurts as one of his top quarterbacks. So, well, let's look at this. Take Love out of the picture for just a second. What do the Packers do really well that has helped the 49ers for years?
Run the ball, pass rush.
Right. They got good backs, right? They have Aaron Jones. They have, I almost said Corey Dillon. They have A.J. Dillon, right?
We got Corey Dillon.
So you got Dillon and you got Jones, who have been fantastic pairing, have done really well in that system for the last couple of years. You have young receivers. You have speed all over the offense. 2 young tight ends. Don't expect much right away from them, but they can at least come in and block, be decent receivers. Aaron Jones is a threat as a receiver. One of the better receiving backs in the NFL, doesn't get credit for it. Defensively, they have talent. They have a solid defense. Their secondary is good. They still have Jair Alexander, still one of the best corners in the league. So they have pieces. If they could play team-efficient football, kind of like the 49ers, move the ball efficiently, they could do well. Love just has to do his job, like you said, but you really want to see him do more than just his job. You want to see him make plays. You want to see him, what like Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't do. You want to see him say, hey, you know what? We need you to step up and make a play, and see what he can do. See how he handles that situation. Even if he falls short, how does he handle that situation? Then the Packers know this guy isn't our guy or this guy is our guy. But the Packers can still succeed because they still have a recipe that they can move the ball on offense effectively, regardless of who's a quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
Exactly. That's why I love him. That's why I love him.
Can I throw a surprise team out there?
No.
Go ahead.
The Steelers. I think everybody's sleeping on the Steelers. I think they had a good draft. I think they haven't had a losing season. They were on the cusp of the playoffs last year. People kind of writing them off. They almost beat Miami last year. Now, it wasn't Miami losing to a bad team or like almost losing to a bad team either. But they still have a good core on their team. They still do things well. Najee Harris might need to step up as a running back a little bit as a weapon, but Kenny Pickett's surprising people. The receivers are already young and good, and Pickens was a fantastic player. I really think that just getting the pieces that they got from the draft alone, Joey Porter on the secondary, what a perfect fit, obviously because his dad just fits it. But I just think the Steelers are going to be a team you got to watch out for. I think they're going to surprise people. I think they're going to play really good football, and they might fall apart down the stretch, or they might start out slow and hit the ground running next year. I don't know, but I think they're going to surprise people.
Yawn, Steelers small. Y'all are going to regret it. The Steelers make the playoffs again.
I'm telling you,
I agree with Bret.
Like the Steelers, they could have snuck themselves in the playoffs over us. Like we were an ugly game away from the Steelers sneaking in there.
I don't know if it's like low hanging fruit or not, but like the Steelers kind of feel like the Packers of the AFC in the same sense. Like even if the quarterback situation isn't figured out, they have the nucleus, they have the structure, they have the proven track record. Like, they are gonna be there. They are not gonna like blow like 5-game win streak, like shit like that. They're gonna be a solid, competent team. I love the draft. Joey Porter, man, maybe it's just because his dad was, but like he's a
Roderick
perfect fit in that
Jones falling to
defense.
them and trading up. They got protection.
Oh yeah,
Good
yeah.
draft.
Like, I forgot about Jones. Like, they got so much, and I know the Eagles get a lot of credit for their draft this year, but holy hell, did the Steelers? Yeah, and then I really still like Trubisky as a veteran backup there. At least they have, but at least they have a veteran backup if they have to come in for one game. But if they have Najee Harris is the big question mark. Can he step up? And can Anthony McFarland kind of be that explosive back for them? Doesn't seem like it. Master Teague, they got out of Ohio State. I do like him. But Calvin Austin, Miles Boykin, they have so much talent. Des Fitzpatrick, Deontay Johnson, forgot all about him. George Pickens was a stud last year. They have and that's right. They signed Allen Robinson, who's still only 29 somehow. Pat Freiermuth is already good. Then they got J.J. Watt. God dang it, I keep doing this. TJ Watt. TJ Watt is still TJ Watt. He's still one of the best defensive players in the league. And then you add Joey Porter to your secondary. Come on. Like, this team is not going to be anybody to play. They're not going to be a team you're like, oh, screw that. This is going to be an easy win. They're going to be a good team, I think. They're going to surprise some people.
So, Zach had one more team in Florida for a surprise team. Who was it?
Well, actually, it was that entire division, but the team in Florida. The NFC South, except the Bucks.
Well,
I can just
that way.
run through each of them because Panthers, Saints, and Falcons all went 7-10 last year. But it wouldn't surprise me if at least one of them got to 10 wins this upcoming season. I don't know if it'll be like game breaking, like, oh my God, this team could win the Super Bowl type thing. Probably not. But let's start with the Saints, right? They've sneakily built a really well-rounded roster. Is it an elite roster? No. It's like, it's got like B's across the board. Like B. You got Marshawn Lattimore, great. Like Ryan Ramchick, great. Like, good. They got those guys, right? May not be good enough to win a playoff game, which ironically is what's going to be engraved on Derek Carr's tombstone. Even like
NFC
Falcons,
South, John, not AFC South.
Yeah. Yeah. Jags. Everyone thinks the Jags are going to be a surprise team.
Yeah, that's not a surprise team anymore. Because if they are good, everybody's picking them.
Dark horse MVP candidate? No, he's just an MVP candidate, Trevor Lawrence. The Falcons, too. Like, kind of same thing. Everyone points their question mark at quarterback. They went 7-10 with one of the worst rosters in football last year. Arthur Smith coming from the Mike Vrabel coaching tree of, even when you think they should suck, they're still going to be competitive. The Falcons were surprisingly competitive. They upgraded their defensive line, completely revamped it. They brought back Chris Lindstrom and Caleb McGarry, who are suddenly like really good. Lindstrom mostly for his entire career. But similarly to the Saints, they just kind of lack a bunch of top-end talent. AJ Terrell's there, Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. Those guys are there. We just haven't seen them elevate an entire team yet. But again, I can still see a winning season barring a complete disaster.
Jesse Bates, too, on that back.
That's right. That's right.
And this might not sound sexy with Jeff Okudah, who maybe he resurrects his career and like maybe he becomes a decent corner. And we've seen that story play out a few times around the league. A corner player leaves and they become at least a respectable player in that position.
Exactly.
And then their offense, Tyler Algier he did well as a rookie, and then they have that system just seems to work. Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Matt Collins has been a respectable rookie or a receiver.
Jonnu Smith, don't forget
Scotty Miller. Jonnu Smith, I forgot they got him. He was an important piece for them in Tennessee.
It's funny because, like, with the Falcons and the Saints, and then honestly the Panthers too, it feels like they know like what their weaknesses are, but they knew they couldn't solve them long term. So they say, you know what? Like, it feels like they're playing Moneyball essentially. The Falcons went and spent a little bit more. The Panthers obviously just paid a ransom for the quarterback. But hey, again, if the quarterback works in Carolina, I think they can be the best team. They have that type of talent to win the division, mostly on defense. I mean, we know about Brian Burns and Jeremy Chin. Frankie Louvu finally getting some like national recognition. He was a stud last season. Honestly, one of the most underrated players in the league. It just kind of comes down to how good their skill players on offense can be, which They seem to be pretty lacking. Side Miles Sanders, bringing Adam Thielen. So it may not be great there, but they've done enough on that roster to be competitive. If Young sucks, then maybe it's a different story. But that offensive line, sneakily a top 5 offensive line in football. I think it was the only offensive line last year to play every single snap or every single game or something like that together. I love the staff they've built for them. So one of these teams, I think, could be the real eyebrow raiser at the end of the season, at least for the NFC conference. But like 7-10, I don't like. Maybe that's the floor for these teams now, rather than a realistic possibility.
And I still like Terrence Marshall and Shee Smith, Laviska Shenault for them. I think they have some talent there, but they really hurt losing more. But like, if Bryce Young is their guy, maybe it works out. But I was honestly surprised that Bryce Young was the guy they took at the top of the draft. But
really, who would you have taken?
Stroud. Honestly, as much as I'm not like
that Ohio State Buckeye flag in the background.
No. That's what? No. I've been hard on Stroud. I mean, I've been hard on Justin Fields. Like I thought Justin Fields could have been better than he's been. So we'll see what happens with him. But I think Stroud. I feel like, especially with Frank Reich, I feel like he would have fit better. But Frank Reich obviously has a plan for Bryce Young, and so in a way, you kind of feel good about it. So you're like, well, I think Bryce Young will work out because Frank Reich's been pretty good with quarterbacks. So, I mean, but this is going to make or break Frank Reich's career too. Because if he fails here with the Panthers and Bryce Young fails, there's going to be 2 franchises he failed to find that franchise quarterback. Now, I get it, Andrew Luck left, but I mean, he made a lot of decisions at quarterback, and it's going to be one of the things that's going to be tough for him to get a head coach job again. However, teams would be stupid to not have him on their coaching staff if he ever gets fired again as an offensive coordinator / quarterback coach, because he's still a fantastic coach.
Yeah. I was singing the praises of Chris Ballard for a long, long time, even when he was in Kansas City. And obviously, like, Reich had to go. It was time. But I think people are still somehow cutting some slack for Ballard when, like, has that roster gotten better at all? No, like, great, you trade for DeForest Buckner, but elsewhere, nothing really. Everyone's saying, oh, they keep drafting the Colts way. This is such a Colts draft. What the hell does that mean? You're going 7-10 again? Like, that doesn't do anything. So I do think that Reich could be the guy in Carolina. But I also agree with you. Like, this is it for him. They've built a good enough structure there with Reich, and then McCown as a quarterback coach too. And shoot, who's the offensive coordinator? Was it Brown from the Rams? Am I right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Thomas Brown.
Yeah.
Look, I think I trust them. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that if they like a quarterback enough, which maybe they didn't like one enough, that maybe they just were like, hey, we'll just figure it out once we get here.
Yeah, maybe.
But still, I give them the benefit of the doubt. It's funny because obviously Wright can get the benefit of the doubt. Arthur Smith gets hated for not having like a good flashy offense, but they're winning games that they shouldn't. I think go to the Saints and Dennis Allen. And man, like, something about them just throws me off. Like, I'm not a Dennis Allen guy, but looking at this roster, could they upgrade almost every position? Probably, but it's not bad. It's really not bad. It just hinges on Derek Carr. Can he be better than Derek Carr, or can he like still be just
Can he be like the Derek Carr that we've seen like lead that team to the playoffs and then he got hurt? Or can he be that guy just last year leading them to the playoffs? Like, where's he at? And if he can't be that guy, which, I mean, most of the time you are who you are for most of your career, then obviously it's not. But I think he could be like, it's not unfeasible to say he could be like Kirk Cousins level player. It's not feasible to say he could be a good player, but the Saints play such good defense. It's going to be, he's basically going to have to limit his mistakes, and they have a really good chance. Yeah. But still question Doug Marrone on offense though.
Yeah.
That's the big question there.
Derek Carr, like I said it earlier, I'll say it again. Derek Carr literally embodies the Saints. It's just like, okay, like, he's not bad, but like, how good can he actually be, especially at a consistent level? So maybe someone changes, maybe someone clicks. I really don't. Saints probably a little bit better than the Raiders, like nothing huge. So does have an easier division to win. So maybe that does help in his favor.
Although I do like Jake Haener and Kendrick Miller for picks for them.
Yeah,
I like Hader eventually.
I had
Love
Kendre
Hader.
Miller as one of my backup picks that I like. Him and Michael Wilson to the Cardinals. Dude, Kendre could be a dude there, especially if they decide to get rid of Kamara at some point.
I wanted Kendre Miller. On FinSalt Network, on like pretty much all my mock drafts I did, I had Kendre Miller going to the Dolphins, and I just wanted him. I just wanted it in there. But, oh well.
Jesse John's comment below. Dave, I wish we had planned this like a month ago because then it would have given me time to grow up my beard and match you guys.
I don't know, Zach.
I haven't shaved in so many years. But man, actually, it's funny you said the Falcons and Saints, because I definitely agree with you on that, especially the Falcons. I really think Arthur Smith has them going in the right direction. Whether it turns into something or not, I think they're headed in a right direction at least.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, like I feel inclined to, jump on like the media bandwagon and say, oh, the Falcons are going to suck. The Saints are going to suck. But like, dude, you go 7-10 with that roster. Like, my gosh, literally Mike Vrabel light. They're coming from the Vrabel system. The Titans, you look at that roster, it's not that good, and yet they're still competitive. We'll see if that changes this year. But again, cut them some slack.
Does Ryan Tannehill get traded or stay?
I mean, the cap casually, he's got a top 10 cap hit this season. I don't know how they'd be able to get that off the books. I feel like they keep him, especially. I also think Malik Willis will probably have more value somehow, some way.
He's getting cut.
I saw that rumor. I don't think he gets cut. I don't think he gets cut. I think a team will come around and say, "Oh, us." I mean, realistically, like if you're Tennessee, you're not getting an offer you like. Just keep him. Keep him.
Yeah.
Levis and Tannehill, like something's got to be right.
Well, Tannehill's a $27 million savings if post June 1st release or trade.
Can they do that? Oh wow.
Yeah. So and then the cap hits $18 million, but it's broken up to $9 million pretty much, 9.6 and 9.2 between 2023 and 2024. Yeah,
that was my next question. Can they? Because like I feel like a veteran presence, especially someone who's like operated that offense fairly. Fair enough. You might like just keep them, because you go in with Will Levis and Malik Willis as your starting quarterbacks. That's a ton of raw inexperience. I feel like Willis would be the odd man out of anyone, but
I feel like the Willis makes more sense. Levis also would make more sense to get rid of, but I'm not like I don't know what they're going to do with Levis. I don't know how he's going to be. I don't know. This feels like Zach Wilson kind of thing all over again.
Yeah, could be. It could also just be a bunch of guys. I'm not really like Levis, Willis. It's funny because we're talking about Tennessee and their three quarterbacks. Like, oh, are they anything? And then Shanahan comes out like yesterday or today saying we have three franchise quarterbacks: Purdy, Lance, and Arnold. Disgusting.
All right, stop pushing it, Kyle. Darnold's a traveling QB. Stop it. It needs to stop. John just said he discovered beard oil. I have a scent called spent rounds from firearm chamber on my beard oil. So it smells like 9mm rounds or something like that getting shot out, and then it smells like that gunpowder smoke, and it smells delicious.
Good to know.
That smell is awesome.
Yes.
That smell is awesome. I don't use beard oil. I use tea tree shampoo and tea tree conditioner, and then a beard straightener.
Really?
I just use like great cheese and find some Parmesan in the fridge.
Oh hell yeah!
Don't get Evan Posner going. Costanza in the back is getting all riled up back there.
It's almost past his bedtime.
Zach, I appreciate you staying out with us a little extra than what we told you.
No worries, man.
We just had to dive in the NFL, man, and get this going.
That was fun.
And we're going to talk about the schedule release a little bit next week because we ate up a lot of time because there was so many good draft discussions still. Folks, thank you for staying with us. But Zach, thank you again for coming on, man. We appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem, guys. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad we can finally make this work. Anytime you guys want to have me back, I just run it by my assistant and we'll make it work.
Man, anytime you want to hop on, just shoot us a DM, man. You got more to welcome. Yep. We love guests having on there, man. It makes the talk more interesting.
Appreciate you guys.
You and any 33rd football member are allowed anytime.
Ooh, good takes. I'll mark that down. I'll mark that down on
It
comment.
could be like a surprise entrant where you
Are
could bring
you
on someone we
guys-
don't know.
Are
Oh,
you
that'd
guys
be cool.
free? I think I'm free. What is it? June 3rd, 2027. It gives me enough time to grow out the beard.
2027. Oh dear Lord.
Oh, hang on. That's yeah, it should be good.
Mine might be down to my belly by then. Honestly,
You gotta wait for me. Come on.
can't do it. I don't trim, brother. Brett's the one that trimmed.
I'll have a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old. So yeah, I'm good. The 9-year-old can watch the 3-year-old. I'll be fine.
Zach, again, thank you for coming on. And just like we have your 6 in football coverage and everything football coverage we try to discuss, please, if you have mental situations or mental help that you need, please talk to someone. Please, if you're having an episode or you feel like you need to call someone, there's hotlines out there. Or reach out to Bret and I. Our lines are open on social media, and we're definitely here to talk to you. Vince Talk Sports Network, we're here to talk to you. Being prior veterans, we've been through situations. We have people that serve by us that have been through it and have passed because of those certain situations. So please, we're here to talk. Even if you don't know us, we're a good listener on top of that because we're married. We both have kids. So all we do is sit and listen most of the time. So we can listen. But just like football, we got your 6.